So it's been a year, and I just want to give a quick update on this clover food plot. No-till method. I got this from Jeff Sturgis and off of his kind of bag of trick stuff. So I started this clover plot back in August a year ago, and it had winter rye and clover mixed together. 2 months later, everything was pretty much green. Everything had come up really nicely, and it was a good mixture of the clover as well as the winter rye. The winter rye worked as like a nurse crop to kind of keep the weeds down, and the plan was to mow that out come the next following spring. But the deer did eat it, and it was pretty good. My plan is to try to build the doe herd or get more does on our property, because we don't really maintain a buck herd. The bucks come through during rut. So the more does, the better. Last year we were bringing in about 3 does. This year we were up to about 6. So that worked out really well. Come mid-October, the bucks started moving through like they always do. That took us right into November. Again, cruising the food plot. Unfortunately, we were not there for any of the action. So that brings us to December. And the deer were still hitting the food plot, still hitting that clover, with snow on the ground as well as no snow on the ground. Definitely more attractive with no snow. That brings us into the spring of this year, and what I did is that I left the plot alone until about July, but then I realized the weeds were coming in thicker and I wanted to mow that rye out, so I came in and I mowed the whole plot, and then I fertilized it. And I pulled out some weeds by hand, some of the bigger stuff that was kind of trying to take over. And finally, by August, it was looking fantastic and looking ready to really be hunted on. So once I had the current clover maintained, I wanted to do some tree cutting and get some small junk trees that had really no value and had no purpose out of there, so I could get some more sunlight down to the creek bank. And get some more clover in there. So I cut a whole bunch of stuff, made a huge brush pile, and just basically let that sit for a couple weeks to dry out. I came in and I sprayed Roundup and 2,4-D. The 2,4-D I think is really important. It gives you a good kill kind of the first time through. And I sprayed as much leaves and weeds and everything as possible. And then 2 weeks later I came back and I got a fire going, and I just burned all of this brush and debris. One of the big things I burned was this underlayered stuff. These are just the sticks, the pine needles, the leaves, everything, this dead layer that's been there for a long time. You got to get the seeds down into the dirt, and so some of that stuff is just a little bit too thick. So all said and done, here's what it looked like. You can see there were just some areas that kind of needed to get filled in. And I had one section last year that didn't grow and maintain. It did grow, but over the spring and the water washouts, everything just washed it out. So I did a little bit of drainage work, and I kind of dug these like ditches kind of around the piece, so it would hopefully keep it dry this year, and I got ready to plant that as well. It's right now the first week in August, so I'm a little early to get the clover in, but it takes a little bit longer because it's a creek. It doesn't get a ton of sunlight, so it takes a little bit longer to get things rocking and rolling down here. So this year when I planted chicory and clover at the same time, and in a month I'm going to come back and cover the whole thing again in a rye, just to kind of again keep the weeds down, and the rye will mow out and you'll just be left with the clover this fall, the next year. When it comes to amounts, I always kind of go on the extra side and put out double what it recommends, because I know I'm going to have some of these seeds not make it, and I'm planting on a hill and the soil itself isn't great, so I want to get as much coverage as possible for the year. I've got this whole creek bank kind of opened up and providing some really nice food for these deer. So go for the no-till method. It's easy. You can do it with no big equipment. You can add food to your small habitat, your small pieces of property. Thanks for watching, and if you were on the fence, hopefully this video showed you that yeah, you can do it and it is possible.